everyone. This is Angie on N3 Primetime, where we're tracking the pulse of the nation and the world. Coming up, Gary dives into escalating global tensions as the Middle East teeters on the brink with U.S. and China's naval forces moving in. Closer to home, a security alert, are terror groups sneaking through our southern border, plus President Biden's whopping $105 billion foreign aid sparks outrage. Are we inadvertently bankrolling terror? In the domestic arena, the Biden's financial saga continues with questionable transactions coming to light. And Trump strikes back, not with words, but with a powerful sketch amidst legal and political turmoil. Stay tuned for our comment section where we air your voices, and don't miss looking at you spotlighting the movers and shakers stirring the pot. Over to you, Gary, for the stories shaking our world tonight.
Good evening, America. This is N3 Primetime. Tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on stories that hit home for every one of us. Why? Because your security, your money, your values are on the line. The world's a powder keg, the Middle East is ablaze, and the sparks are too close for comfort with potential terrorists at our doorstep. Meanwhile, in Washington, they're playing Monopoly with your tax dollars, possibly sending them to the very hotspots of terror we're trying to keep at bay. And it doesn't stop there. The integrity of the Oval Office is in question with financial dealings that frankly stink to high heaven. Then there's Trump, a man who, love him or hate him, is painting a picture quite literally of a nation divided, a judiciary questioned, and faith under fire. And speaking of protecting what's important, let's talk about safeguarding your financial future. It's like navigating a ship through a storm, and you want the best crew and the sturdiest vessel. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Just like our viewers want the unvarnished truth, Noble Gold's customers get straightforward, no-pressure advice, ensuring their financial voyage is less about choppy waters and more about smooth sailing. They're offering a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coin for qualified accounts. Navigate to nextnewsgold.com and secure your financial deck today. Now, back to you, Angie. What is on your radar for the viewers tonight?
Tonight, I'm diving into the heart of the stories that matter to you, America, because your rights, your leadership, and your security are front and center. First up, California's assault weapons ban, gone. A federal judge just called it unconstitutional. A landmark victory for the Second Amendment. Next, the race is on for the Speaker of the House, and the lineup is intense. But who has the edge in this high-stakes political showdown? Meanwhile, Representative Dean Phillips is eyeing the White House, planning a daring challenge to President Biden in 2024. How's that for party tension? And folks, things are heating up with Iran. Secretary Blinken's pulling no punches, signaling potential military escalation. With American lives on the line, the situation is nothing short of explosive. Plus, Liz Cheney, fresh off a political bruising, is now eyeing the presidency. Is it a genuine run or a long shot to stay in the spotlight? These stories matter, America, because they shape our freedoms, define our leaders, and secure our nation. Now let's toss it over to Gary for our first special report of the night. Gary, what have you got for us?
Tonight, an urgent unfolding of events as the Middle East teeters on the brink of what could morph into World War III. Israel, standing its ground, sends a stark warning towards Iran amidst a powder keg of geopolitical strife. The U.S. and China, two global superpowers, make decisive military maneuvers. American patriots, your attention is crucial as these developments just aren't on distant shores. They ripple directly into the heart of our republic, our values, and our security. What starts in the Middle East won't stay there. So stay with us for this special report and don't miss the final thought. It's something every American needs to hear. In a world growing darker with potential conflict, a spark in the Middle East could set off a conflagration unlike anything we've seen since the world wars of the 20th century. Israel has thrown down the gauntlet, with Economy Minister Nir Barkat issuing a dire warning. Any move by the Iran-backed Hezbollah could see retaliation not just against the proxy forces, but against Iran itself. His words, promising to, quote, wipe the Ayatollahs from the face of the earth, underscore the gravity of a situation ready to explode beyond regional borders. Amidst this high-stakes backdrop, foreign naval forces are positioning themselves strategically in the region. The Chinese have dispatched 6 vessels, marking a significant presence, while the U.S., not to be outdone, has brought in its most advanced carrier. These movements signal a wider international concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East and the potential ripple effects on global security. Take a look.
During the war between Israel and the Hamas in the Gaza Strip, 6 Chinese naval vessels have been active in the Middle East region. As per an announcement from the Chinese Ministry of Defense, the 44th Naval Escort Task Force has been engaged in routine operations in the area. In the previous week, they additionally carried out a collaborative drill with the Omani Navy while visiting Oman. After the conclusion of its trip to Oman, the Chinese Naval Escort Task Force arrived at Shuwaik Port in Kuwait as planned on the morning of October 18th. The Chinese naval contingent commenced a 5-day diplomatic visit to Kuwait. The Chinese Ministry of Defense said, guided by Kuwaiti naval patrol craft Filaka, warships of the Chinese task force, including ship Zibo, ship Jingzhou, and ship Qiandahu, docked at Shuwaik Port. They were welcomed by more than 200 people, including representatives of the Kuwaiti military, staff of the Chinese embassy in Kuwait, and overseas Chinese. This task force originates from the People's Liberation Army Eastern Division and consists of the Zibo, a Type 052D guided missile destroyer, the frigate Jingzhou, and the integrated supply ship Qiandahu. With tensions escalating in the region, the presence of 6 Chinese vessels in Middle Eastern waters has gained growing significance. The disclosure of Chinese warships in the area coincides with an expansion of the United States presence in the same region.
The turmoil isn't contained to verbal threats. The Israeli Defense Forces are amassing at the Gaza border, preparing to quell the Hamas threat within its boundaries. This militant group, also with ties to Iran, escalated the crisis with a sudden onslaught on southern Israel, resulting in tragic loss and hostages taken. But the IDF's gaze is fixed northward too, wary of Hezbollah and the potential for a conflict stretching across multiple fronts. And it's not just the Middle East watching with bated breath. The U.S., recognizing the delicate balance of power and the necessity of a steadfast response, has initiated significant military movements. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, following pressing discussions with President Biden, has directed additional defensive measures to fortify the region. The USS Ford carrier strike group, already positioned in the eastern Mediterranean, is now joined by the Dwight D. Eisenhower. The dual carrier presence, a display of naval might, hints at preparedness for a massive air campaign should the needs arise. The USS Ford, a pinnacle of naval technology, boasts increased deck space and sortie rates, factors that, when combined with the USS Eisenhower, represent a formidable interoperative force ready to protect American military power. But there's more than just offensive capability being bolstered. The Pentagon, in a prudent move, has dispatched Patriot missile batteries and Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, systems to the Middle East. Though the exact locations remain undisclosed, their mission is clear: to shield U.S. forces and provide a security umbrella for parts of Israel against the specter of Iranian long-range ballistic missiles. Recent escalations have prompted the Pentagon to amp up its defensive posture in the region. The deployment of not just 1 but 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, additional air defense systems, and troops being put on heightened alert suggests the U.S. isn't taking any chances. But what's the overarching strategy behind these moves? Are they purely for deterrence, or is there more than meets the eye? For a deeper dive into Washington's decision-making and the potential implications of these deployments, let's take a look at what's happening over on Al Jazeera America and how they're covering this. Watch.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon says it's now deploying additional air defense systems throughout the Middle East in response to recent escalations. Let's speak to Heidi Jo Castro in Washington, D.C. for more on that. Heidi, 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, now this, and I see even more troops are being put on higher alert. Is this deterrence, or does it potentially go further than that?
Nastasia, according to the Defense Secretary's announcement about this new deployment, he says this is about deterrence, about keeping this conflict within Israel and Gaza and not having it spread wider. However, you look at the things that the U.S. is now sending: 2 ground-based missile defense systems, while President Biden has said he will not be putting U.S. troops on the ground in Israel. So it really makes you wonder where these systems would go. Of course, the U.S. does have troops in the region. There's 2,500 in Iraq, another 900 in Syria. And of course, just earlier this week, some of those troops came under attack from drones. So potentially these systems could go there. Of course, just off of the coast of Israel in the Mediterranean, we have those 2 aircraft aircraft carriers, as you said, with some thousands of personnel aboard, but certainly sending these ground-based missile defense systems may show further escalation of this, even though the U.S. still is framing it as deterrence.
These deployments aren't static either. Austin has emphasized the readiness to mobilize additional forces should the situation deteriorate further. The message is unambiguous. The U.S. stands ready to defend its interests and allies in the region against Iranian provocations or any escalations in this theater of tension. Yet the waters grow murkier with China's entrance. The People's Liberation Army has dispatched its 44th Naval Escort Task Force to the Middle East. This group, having recently conducted operations in Oman, comprises advanced military vessels, including the guided missile destroyer Zibo and the frigate Jinju, along with the supply ship Guangdao. Their destination is undisclosed, but their presence speaks volumes. As Israel gears up for a potential ground incursion into Gaza, the PLA's proximity could complicate an already intricate geopolitical dance. This isn't merely about regional conflict anymore. This is a global stage with superpowers circling, each with their stakes in the outcome. The concern in Washington is palpable. What if the current crisis isn't just another chapter in the long-standing Middle East conflict? What if this time the fuse lit leads to a much larger explosion? But let's pause for a moment. Just as global leaders are showcasing their strength in the Middle East, you have the power to amplify your business. This is a call to all patriot entrepreneurs. Your products, your services deserve worldwide recognition. And what better way to achieve this than by partnering with the Next News Network? Together, we can form a beacon of truth, fortifying our republic against all threats, foreign and domestic. Visit sponsораpatriot.com right now and make your mark on a global scale. Now, the situation in Gaza remains dire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's stern vow signals a protracted conflict ahead. Hamas militants, whom Netanyahu unequivocally labels as new Nazis, face a determined IDF ready to defend its nation at all costs. The human toll is climbing, with thousands of casualties marking a tragic chapter in the region's history. The stakes have never been higher as tensions and rhetoric escalate on all fronts. The battle is described by Israeli leadership as a fight for survival, with the goal of a definitive victory against Hamas. But will Hezbollah, backed by Iran, enter the fray? If they do, the consequences could be devastating, not just for Israel, but for the entire Middle East. Now dive into this raw and riveting statement from Israeli leadership on their perspective and strategy. Watch.
We're in a battle for our lives, a battle for our home. This is not an exaggeration. This is the war. It's do or die. They need to die. And we are now in a double battle. One battle is a battle to hold action here, and on the other side to win there. An absolute victory that will erase Hamas. I can't tell you now if Hezbollah will decide to fully enter the war. If Hezbollah decides to enter the war, it will long for the second Lebanon war. They will be making the biggest mistake of their lives, and we will hit them with an unimaginable force. It will mean devastation for them and the state of Lebanon.
Amidst the airstrikes, rocket attacks, and a burgeoning humanitarian crisis, the world holds its breath. Iran's influence through Hezbollah and Hamas pose a multi-front challenge for Israel. Any miscalculation or drastic action could pull neighboring countries into the fray. And with the global powers like the U.S. and China directly involved, the potential for this regional conflict to erupt into a broader war is an ever-present danger. Admiral Lord West's warning rings loud and clear. The crisis could spiral into a global conflict in just 6 harrowing steps. The UK and US could find themselves with boots on the ground, and countries like Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and Russia might be propelled into the chaos. The stakes are monumental. Every skirmish, every diplomatic decision, every show of force could tip the balance towards peace or plunge the world into conflict. It's a cauldron of volatility, with revenge, military alliances, and civilian peril blending into a potential recipe for disaster. As Lord West notes, it's a dangerous, heady mix that could ignite at the slightest provocation. In these grave times, it's not just the fate of the Middle East hanging in the balance, but the security and stability of our great American republic. What we're witnessing could very well be the preamble to a conflict engulfing nations, a potential World War III scenario. We as patriots must stand vigilant, understanding that the ripples of these distant events touch our shores, influence our policies, and shape our global standing. Now is the time for unity, strength, and resolve, ensuring that America remains the beacon of freedom and democracy in a world teetering on the edge. Our values, our way of life are non-negotiable, and we must stand ready to defend them against any threat, be it from the deserts of the Middle East or in the corridors of power in nations far from our borders. Patriots, stay strong, stay informed, and most importantly, stay united.
Big news out of California as a federal judge just knocked down the state's long-standing assault weapons ban, calling it unconstitutional. That's right, the decades-old law is no more, marking a huge win for the Second Amendment. Judge Roger Benitez out of San Diego made the call, saying law-abiding citizens use these firearms for defense, not just criminals. He even called the ban a failed experiment and didn't stop there, also lifting the restrictions on magazine holdings over 10 rounds. This comes after the Supreme Court nixed a New York law limiting concealed and carry. California's Governor Newsom, he's furious, calling the ruling a win for right-wing ideology. But this decision underscores a fundamental. Americans have the right to arm themselves. Dive deeper, tap the link below. A leaked memo reveals a chilling terror plot at the border. Gary, what's in the special report?
This special report dives deep into a story that shakes the very pillars of our nation's security. As we speak, our southern border, along a topic of heated debate and concern, emerges once more into the limelight. But this time the stakes are as high as they've ever been. Federal insiders have sounded the alarm. Terrorists from groups like Hamas and Hezbollah are potentially exploiting our immigration system to infiltrate the United States. Imagine the very fabric of our republic at risk, hidden beneath the guise of the migrant surge. We've dug deep beyond the headlines to bring you the full scope of this imminent threat. And trust me, you don't want to miss our final thought. It's a wake-up call. No, actually, it's a siren for every citizen who believes in the safety and sovereignty of our great nation. The integrity of a nation, my fellow citizens, is often measured by the strength of its borders. Yet today we stand at a precipice, peering into a chasm of what appears to be an insurmountable national security crisis. Federal officials have recently unearthed a threat that reads like a script from a geopolitical thriller, yet it's all too real. Members of terror organizations, specifically Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hezbollah, could very well be crossing into our homeland through the southern border. Watch.
Here at home. Hey, Peter.
Ainsley, the intel arm of CBP is out with a new bulletin, and it has a very alarming headline. It says foreign fighters of Israel-Hamas conflict may be encountered at the southwest border. Daily Caller got a copy of this material that was posted 3 days ago, and it's warning about fighters from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Islamic Jihad trying to exploit the porous southern border because, and part of the concern is that they can see the same things that everybody else sees. These numbers, a record 2.48 million encounters in a fiscal year, and among them, at least 172 people on the terror watch list. That is 172 who actually came face to face with law enforcement and didn't get away.
When the Border Patrol is so overwhelmed that most agents are no longer on patrol because they're dealing with this self-inflicted humanitarian crisis, that's when the fentanyl comes across and kills over 100,000 Americans. That's when the sex trafficking of women and children skyrocket, and that's when non-suspected terrorists will use that vulnerable border to get into this country.
President Biden did speak with Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday, but he remains at the Rehoboth Beach House this morning. The plan is to leave for the White House around 10:30 to get back here for a Bidenomics event this afternoon. Ainsley?
All right. That's scary when you look at those numbers.
Now, this isn't conjecture or fear-mongering. It's a fact detailed in an internal memo from the San Diego Field Office Intelligence Division of Customs and Border Protection dated October 20th. This document you see here explicitly warns that the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas could prompt individuals tied to these terror factions to attempt entry into the United States. The memo states San Diego Field Office Intelligence Unit assesses that individuals inspired by or reacting to the current Israel-Hamas conflict may attempt travel to or from the area of hostilities in the Middle East via transit across the southwest border. The specifics of the threat are chilling. These aren't just random individuals sneaking in for a better life. These are potentially trained militants, ideologically driven, with connections to groups responsible for atrocities and ongoing attacks in the Middle East. The memo elucidates that foreign fighters, motivated by ideology or mercenary soldiers of fortune, may attempt to obfuscate travel to or from the U.S. or to or from countries in the Middle East through Mexico. Adding to the gravity of the situation, the Border Patrol has encountered a significant surge in individuals on the terror watch list trying to cross the border. The data is alarming. 172 encounters in fiscal year 2023, a stark increase from 98 in the previous fiscal year. And these aren't just numbers, they're a testament to a burgeoning crisis. In total, Customs and Border Patrol agents reported a record number of asylum seekers at the southern border in September, 260,000 migrant encounters. Here's more.
Yeah, Natasha, the southern border continues to be a political vulnerability for President Biden. New numbers actually released today by Customs and Border Protection do show that a record number of migrants crossed into the U.S. in the month of September, with over 260,000 migrant encounters. That's more than the entire population of Lincoln, Nebraska. And those numbers don't include individuals who illegally entered the country, were detected, but were never apprehended by Border Patrol agents. Earlier this year, migrant encounters were trending downward, but have skyrocketed in recent months with over 200,000 migrant encounters in the month of August. News Nation was on the ground in El Paso in Texas in September as the city was averaging an overwhelming number of 2,000 migrant encounters a day. Some cities are so overwhelmed that families could be sleeping on the streets. Officials telling News Nation that resources are stretched thin with no help from the federal government. Now, federal officials are also concerned with individuals who are known or either suspected terrorists crossing from special interest countries, especially with the ongoing war in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. Since the war started in Israel, migrants coming from those special interest countries have increased. According to CBP data, those countries do include Egypt, Syria, Yemen, and Iran. In a week span, agents in Tucson encountered 27 migrants from Syria. During that same time, 18 people from Iran and 3 people from Lebanon were also encountered at the southern border. 18 people on the FBI's terror watch list were apprehended at the southern border just in the month of September alone. And so far in the fiscal year of 2023, 169 individuals on that FBI terror watch list were apprehended on the southern border. That's more than the previous 6 years combined, Natasha. So a national security alert right now for officials on the southern border.
Now let's consider the implications. Our southern border has been a contentious topic, a flashpoint of political debate for years, but the conversation has largely revolved around illegal immigration, national resources, and humanitarian concerns. Today, it transcends those debates. We're talking about national security, the safety of every American citizen, the sanctity of our republic. Reflecting on the significance of our southern border and national security, it really hits home just how important it is to have stability and assurance in all aspects of our lives. And speaking of which, folks, I do want to take a moment to highlight something. You value the in-depth news we provide here, right? Well, it's made possible by our superb sponsors. They don't just sponsor, they help stabilize our mission. And in these uncertain times, taking personal finance, who better than Noble Gold Investments? They demystify the realm of precious metals, offering a safeguard against unpredictable economic tides. One of their clients put it simply, honest guidance, no pressure. Venture into solid assets like gold and silver with their guidance, plus they're currently gifting a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coin with qualifying accounts. In a world full of upheaval, don't let your finances be another source of stress. With an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and rave 5-star reviews, Noble Gold is your beacon. Check out nextnewsgold.com or tap more below. They are the gold gurus I trust implicitly. Now, returning to our pressing concern, the memo further details indicators that border authorities should be vigilant about. Military-age males, individuals with military gear, lone travelers, and those with ties to regions rife with conflict. They're also advised to ask pointed questions about association with groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and others. This is the front line of defense. Yet it begs the question, are these measures enough in the face of such a sophisticated and clandestine threat? The GOP has rightfully sounded the alarm on this issue, calling it a major crisis. They're not mincing words or playing political games. This is a call to action, an urgent plea for the sanctity of our borders and, by extension, our nation. U.S. Senator John Thune joined Varney and Company on Sunday and called the U.S. southern border porous. Watch.
Senate Minority Whip John Thune, Republican from the great state of South Dakota, joins me now. Mr. Senator, what's being done about these special interest aliens that are coming into our country?
Unfortunately, not enough, Stuart. This is a huge problem. You heard Griff mention the number already in the first 2 weeks of October. September was a record, absolute all-time record, 260,000 people apprehended illegally trying to get into this country, 230,000 in the month of August. And the thing that's really concerning about it, and you referenced it, the special interest aliens now have figured out from all over the world. I mean, this used to be kind of a regional thing, Central and South America. Now we've got a lot of Middle Eastern countries. In the last couple of years, it had 659 people that have been apprehended trying to come in from Iran. And just in this last year, 151 people apprehended that are on the terrorist watch list. So think about that. That's more than the previous 6 years combined. People have figured out we have a porous southern border. And in a nation that's based on the rule of law, in a rule-based country, you can't have that. We've got to enforce the law. This president, this administration hasn't done it, isn't doing it, and that's why we've got a major crisis at our southern border, and it's a national security crisis.
May I just add one thing to this? First 17 days of this month, 108,000 migrants coming across the southern border. Every year, we only allow in 65,000 H-1B visa holders. Those are people that we want to come into our country. Only 65,000 a year, 108,000 in the first 17 days illegally of this month. I just wanted to point that out because the numbers are staggering.
They are. It's totally upside down. I mean,
Yeah,
we need legal pathways to get workers here, and then we've got just an absolute disaster at the southern border, and the administration's turned a blind eye to it. Go ahead.
We need more than just heightened vigilance. We require a comprehensive review of our border policies, a bolstering of our defenses, and a proactive stance against the forces that seek to harm or destabilize our republic. The danger is not just an abstract or overseas issues. It's at our doorstep, potentially mingling with migrants, exploiting the very values and systems that America cherishes. The integrity of our nation, the safety of our communities depend on confronting this reality head on. Denial is not just complacency, it is complicity. So consider the scenario at play here. Our border, already a topic of contention, faces an influx of migrants from various regions, each with their stories, their hopes, and their desperation. Yet lurking within these masses could be individuals with sinister intentions aligned with groups whose ideologies are antithetical to everything our republic stands for. These aren't mere trespassers. These are entities who could carry the banner of terror right into our neighborhoods. The war in the Middle East may seem distant, its explosions and casualties relegated to the evening news, but its echoes have the potential to reverberate through the very heart of America. The conflict between Israel and Hamas is not just a regional skirmish, it's a crucible where ideologies that respect no borders or nationalities are forged. And now the spark from that crucible threatens to ignite the tinderbox of our immigration system. As we've seen, the border crisis isn't merely a question of resources or humanitarian response. It's a multifaceted scenario where national security concerns intertwine with geopolitical events. The lines on the map that denote our southern border aren't just geographical demarcations. They are the lines between order and chaos, safety and ruin. As we stand here today, it's not just about policy or politics. It's about the resolve of a nation to protect its citizens, to uphold the principles on which it was founded. It's about recognizing that we aren't just dealing with a migrant crisis. We are potentially facing an infiltration that wears the cloak of humanitarian plight. The Republic demands vigilance, action, and an unyielding commitment to the safety of its populace. This footage, this reality unfolding at our border isn't a distant problem. It's an American problem. It's a challenge to our resolve, to our principles, and to our way of life. As the situation evolves, we owe it to ourselves and to the generations that follow to confront it with the seriousness that it demands. My fellow Americans, as we conclude tonight's segment, let's not forget the gravity of the situation we're facing. This isn't just another news piece. This is a stark reminder of the fragility of our national security, a testament to the threats lurking beyond and potentially within our borders. The possibility of terrorists exploiting our southern border crisis isn't a distant nightmare. It is a clear and present danger. It challenges the very tenets of our republic, the safety of our communities, and the integrity of the American spirit. This is a call to action for heightened awareness, fortified policies, and unwavering patriotism. As we navigate these troubled waters, let us anchor our resolve in the principles that define us: liberty, justice, and an unyielding commitment to the safety and prosperity of our great nation. For if we falter in our vigilance, we compromise the very foundations upon which our republic stands.
9 big names are now gunning for the Speaker of the House, folks, with Elise Stefanik announcing contenders like Jack Bergman and Byron Donalds. Remember Kevin McCarthy? These guys want his old job. It's a mad dash since McCarthy's shock exit and Steve Scalise stepping down post-win. Jim Jordan couldn't clinch it either, so here we are. There's no doubt all eyes are on the prize, but it's a bumpy road with the party divided and the Dems backing Hakeem Jeffries unanimously. Dive deeper, tap the link below. Up next, Gary dives into the GOP's fury over claims that Biden's aid might inadvertently finance terror.
Tonight, a storm brews in Washington. President Biden's whopping $105 billion foreign aid package has ignited a firestorm among top Republican leaders. Senator Tom Cotton vows it's dead on arrival, slamming the door on what he labels a cash infusion for terrorists. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Senator Ted Cruz pulls no punches, exposing a staggering cash flow to Iran, known patrons of Hamas. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the GOP's response fiercer. You can't afford to miss this special report, as it tears the lid off the administration's foreign dealings that could put our republic and allies at risk. And stay with us until the end for a final thought that promises to challenge everything you know about the current state of our national security. The halls of Washington are echoing with outrage and disbelief after President Joe Biden announced a staggering $105 billion foreign aid package, a move that has drawn the ire of prominent Republican senators. Among the most vocal are Tom Cotton of Arkansas and Ted Cruz of Texas, who argue that this isn't just a misuse of hard-earned tax dollars, but a dangerous game that could inadvertently fuel international terrorism. Biden's plan, detailed in a national address, proposes funneling billions, including a contentious $3.5 billion to Gaza and a whopping $60 billion to Ukraine. While the president labels this a vital support mechanism for allies, critics are questioning the allocations, especially since much of it seems destined for regions with questionable ties to terror outfits like Hamas. Senator Cotton, a close ally of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, didn't mince any words in his response. He said, quote, President Biden's slush fund proposal is dead on arrival, just like his budgets. He declared, slamming the door on any misconceptions about the bill's survival. Cotton is especially irate about the billions earmarked for Gaza, which he starkly describes as a resupply line for Hamas terrorists. The aid package, though touted as a lifeline for allies, raises eyebrows with its disproportionate allocations. While Ukraine would receive the lion's share, Israel's allocated $14 billion, ostensibly to sharpen Israel's military edge and signal to Iran that U.S. stands firm with Israel. But it's the aid funneled toward potential hotbeds of terrorism that has senators up in arms. And Cotton isn't alone in his skepticism. Senator Cruz took the criticism up a notch, linking the Biden administration's policy with the direct empowerment of terrorism. In a no-holds-barred conversation with Maria Bartiromo, Cruz pointed an accusing finger at the Biden regime for facilitating nearly $100 billion to flow into Iran over the last 2.5 years. This financial influx, Cruz argues, directly empowers Hamas, a known terrorist entity, and by extension endangers both American and Israeli lives. Watch.
Let me get your take from a policy perspective, what you can do, what you and your colleagues can do in the face of this bloodshed.
Well, this attack is the worst attack on Israel in 50 years. This is what happened on October 7th. In the early mornings of October 7th is the single largest mass murder of Jews in a day since the Holocaust. And Israel right now is quite rightly responding, and they are responding. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made clear that his objective is to utterly eradicate Hamas. These terrorists, they targeted civilians. They went from home to home to home, going after civilians, deliberately murdering the elderly, murdering women, murdering children. They would murder entire families simply because they were Jewish. They violently raped women and young girls, publicly parading them in the street. They murdered and decapitated and burned alive toddlers and infants. This is horrific, and it is evil what Hamas terrorists have done. Now, going forward, there are several steps for U.S. policy. Number one, we need to cut off the funding that has enabled this attack to happen. And what is so infuriating is that over the last 2.5 years, Joe Biden and the Biden administration have flowed nearly $100 billion to Iran. Understand, Hamas is a proxy for Iran. Without Iran, there would be no Hamas. And the Wall Street Journal has reported that this attack was planned by Iran, was funded by Iran, was directed by Iran, and yet the Biden administration continues to allow billions and billions of dollars to flow to the Ayatollah to be used to murder Israelis and to murder Americans.
That is exactly right, Senator.
The situation gets murkier when Secretary of State Antony Blinken, a key player in this geopolitical saga, openly acknowledges that Iran has a history of channeling funds to support terrorism. Despite this admission, the Biden administration endorsed a substantial financial package for Iran, amplifying GOP concerns about indirect U.S. sponsorship of terrorism. Maria Bartiromo, sharing these concerns, highlighted the presence of Iranian sympathizers within the Biden administration, particularly Rob Malley, Biden's chief negotiator in the Iran nuclear talks. This infiltration, she contends, exacerbates the risk, enabling policies that might indirectly fund and empower terrorists. And it's not just about who gets the money. It's also about who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Cruz revealed a worrying national security scandal involving Malley and alleged Iranian operatives within the administration. Such revelations, if accurate, signify a profound threat to American-Israeli security, essentially placing foxes in charge of the henhouse. Watch.
Right now, we have Iranian sympathizers working within the Biden administration. And that is why I started asking you, what can you do about it? Because these atrocities are continuing, and we have Robert Malley, apparently Biden's chief negotiator in the Iran nuclear talks. We have others that are still working in the administration that have been leading this effort to get the United States back into an Iran deal, leading this effort to, in fact, lower the sanctions, enabling Iran to generate billions in revenue. And what are they doing with the money? They are empowering these terrorists.
Well, and what you just mentioned with Rob Malley remains one of the greatest national security scandals in our nation's history. So Rob Malley was Joe Biden's chief negotiator for Iran. He's an incredible Iran sympathizer. He is an advocate, a passionate advocate for the disastrous Obama-Iran nuclear deal. But he also has extraordinarily bad judgment. He's been fired. He's had his security clearances stripped, which I want you to pause and think, just how bad does his conduct have to be to have his security clearances pulled by this ideological and radical White House? But we now know also that, among other things, 3 of Rob Malley's top advisors, his inner circle, that he relied on, were Iranian operatives. They were recruited by the government of Iran. They were directed by the Iranian foreign minister. They reported to the Iranian foreign minister. We have their emails now in which they discuss. One of them discusses with the foreign minister that his loyalties are with the government of Iran, and he is there to do whatever they direct, including making the message from within the federal government that there's nothing wrong with Iran having a nuclear stockpile. You literally had 3 Iranian spies working in senior positions directly around the U.S. government. One of them, as far as we know, remains a chief of staff in the Department of Defense to this day with access to classified documents. And yet the corporate media cannot be brought to mention that 3 Iranian spies were brought into senior levels of government with access to classified materials while working directly for Iran, the same Iran that just murdered 31 Americans and 1,400 Israelis, the same Iran directed by an Ayatollah who regularly leads mobs chanting death to America and death to Israel.
The plot thickens with Biden's nominee for ambassador to Israel, Jack Lew. Cruz is appalled, labeling Lew a terrible choice due to his prior involvement in the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, which previously funneled over $100 billion to Iran. All this financial wrangling occurs against the backdrop of Biden's push for a massive $100 billion supplementary request intended for defense assistance to Israel and Ukraine, among other expenses. Cruz criticizes this as a cynical ploy leveraging bipartisan support for Israel to smuggle in unrelated agendas. He's calling for a clean, straightforward legislation that directly supports Israel's military needs, not a bill muddled with extraneous issues. Here's more.
Your take on what happens with Jack Lew. Last week, your committee heard the hearing of the former Treasury Secretary under President Obama. He wants to be the next ambassador to Israel. Is it going to pass?
Well, I don't know. I think he's a terrible choice. I think you will see Republicans voting against him. The question is, does every Democrat vote party line? And they might. Jack Lew was the Treasury Secretary under Barack Obama. He was one of the critical point people for negotiating and implementing the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. Jack Lew played a critical point in flowing over $100 billion to Iran. That was catastrophically stupid then. It hurt American interest. It cost American lives. And now Joe Biden has taken the appeasement of Barack Obama towards Iran, has taken it to another level, and he wants to put as the point person for the administration in Israel someone who has funded in a very real way the death squads that are attacking Israel. I think that's a mistake. In ordinary times, I think there'd be a reasonable chance that some Democrats would say, look, this is a bad choice, and would vote no. Right now, the White House is saying, well, if you support Israel, you got to give us an ambassador there. I think it'd be great to have an ambassador there. It'd be even better to have an ambassador there who isn't responsible for funding the theocratic lunatics who are murdering your citizens, and to have an ambassador there who hasn't implemented policies for years that undermine the state of Israel. We need to support Israel, not undermine Israel and fund their enemies.
All right. Real quick.
And before we dive deeper, let's pause for a critical message that's equally about safeguarding your well-being. Just as our nation needs robust defense, your body needs strong support, especially when it comes to managing weight. Recent studies show that regularly stepping on a scale can dramatically improve weight loss efforts by keeping goals front and center. And now, many folks are turbocharging their journey with natural supplements. I have discovered a remarkable solution that harnesses the Earth's bounty to help manage weight, curb cravings, and boost metabolism. Plus, for this month only, you can save 51% on your order. Don't miss out. Visit trimwithgary.com or click below for this limited time offer. Now back to the high-stakes drama unfolding in Washington. Cotton's promise that the proposal would be blocked isn't just political posturing. It's a commitment to craft a funding bill that, in his words, protects America's and their interests. This isn't mere fiscal responsibility. It's about ensuring that American dollars don't inadvertently fuel the very threats the nation combats. But where does Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer stand amidst this turmoil? Well, he's pushing for swift action, arguing this legislation is too important to wait. His call for bipartisan support, however, seems to fall on deaf ears as GOP senators, including McConnell, demand a more tailored approach that, quote, meets the demonstrated needs of our allies without opening the door to misuse. The tug of war isn't merely about dollars and cents. It's about national security and the sanctity of human life. Both Cruz and Cotton argue that the indirect funding of terrorism through these allocations could have a catastrophic domino effect, imperiling American and Israeli lives and ultimately global security. In this intricate web of politics, finance, and security, one thing stands firm. The decisions made in Washington's corridors have real-world consequences, often paid in human lives. When our leaders choose to funnel billions into regions rife with terrorism and corruption, they must acknowledge the potential backlash against American and global security. Senators Cotton and Cruz's staunch opposition isn't just fiscal prudence, it's a clarion call to safeguard American interests and lives. As citizens, we must heed this call, holding our elected officials accountable for their actions and demanding transparency in every transaction made in our name, because ultimately the price of negligence is one we cannot afford to pay.
U.S. Representative Dean Phillips is reportedly gearing up to challenge President Biden in the 2024 Democratic primary. This isn't just some idle chatter. Phillips has been seeking a moderate alternative to Biden. Now he's apparently making moves himself. reaching out to New Hampshire Democrats and potential campaign staff. But he's not without hurdles. He's new to the game since 2018, and challenging an incumbent? That's a steep hill, especially with ballot access issues in several states. Plus, he's pulling in big names like Steve Schmidt of the Lincoln Project, aiming for wide appeal. It's a bold play, signaling a rift in the Democratic Party, hungry for change. Will Phillips be the catalyst? Time will tell. Dive deeper, tap the link below. Next, Gary unpacks explosive revelations about $200,000 ties, spelling game over for Joe.
As shadows lengthen over Capitol Hill, new revelations threaten to shake the very pillars of our republic. Within this expose lies a tangled web of financial dealings, a luxurious beach house with murky origins, and a family ensnared at the epicenter of it all. The depths we're about to plunge into will reveal unsettling transactions, casting a stark light on President Joe Biden's financial entanglements. But brace yourself for the final thought unraveling that will challenge everything that we know. Final thought awaits, a concluding piece of this investigative puzzle that no American should miss, and it's not just about uncovering truth. It's about our nation's soul, the integrity of our leadership, and the transparency we as citizens are entitled to. So stay with us as we journey through these alarming discoveries, leading to a conclusion that beckons an urgent call to action. In what's emerging as a significant revelation, the House Oversight Committee has unveiled a direct payment to President Joe Biden, seemingly channeled through his brother James. So here's the scoop. In 2018, James Biden, evidently cashing in on his family name, secured $600,000 in loans from AmeriCorps, a struggling rural hospital operator. Fast forward to March 1st, 2018. On this day, AmeriCorps transfers a $200,000 loan directly into James and Sarah Biden's personal bank account. Without wasting any time, on that very same day, James sends a check of the same amount, $200,000, to none other than Joe Biden, labeling it as a loan repayment. This prompts the critical question: why would AmeriCorps, a distressed entity, lend money to James Biden only for it to end up in Joe Biden's pocket? Chairman James Comer didn't mince words. He said, "We found some," in response to Biden's previous query of "where's the money?" The committee's rigorous examination has discovered bank records revealing this direct payment. Chairman Comer, rightfully perplexed, presents some pressing questions for President Biden, such as the reasoning behind such an enormous loan amount, any similar financial agreements, and Biden's awareness of James' dealings with a sinking company. Watch.
This summer, Joe Biden said, "Where's the money?" Well, we found some. We're still digging into evidence subpoenaed from bank accounts belonging to Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, and James and Sarah Biden, the brother and sister-in-law of the president. A document that we're releasing today raises new questions about how President Biden personally benefited from his family's shady influence peddling of his last name and their access to him. Bank records obtained by the House Committee on Oversight have revealed a $200,000 direct payment from James and Sarah Biden to Joe Biden in the form of a personal check. Here's some important context about this check we've obtained in our investigation. In 2018, James Biden received $600,000 in loans from AmeriCorps, a financially distressed and failing rural hospital operator. According to bankruptcy court documents, James Biden received these loans, quote, based upon representations that his last name, Biden, could open doors and that he could obtain a large investment from the Middle East based on his political connections, end quote. On March 1st, 2018, AmeriCorps wired a $200,000 loan into James and Sarah Biden's personal bank account, not their business bank account. And then on the very same day, James Biden wrote a $200,000 check from this same personal bank account to Joe Biden. James Biden wrote this check to Joe Biden as a, quote, loan repayment. AmeriCorps, a distressed company, loaned money to James Biden, who then sent it to Joe Biden. Even if this was a personal loan repayment, it's still troubling that Joe Biden's ability to be paid back by his brother depended on the success of his family's shady financial dealings. Some immediate questions President Biden must answer for the American people. Does he have documents proving he lent such a large sum of money to his brother? And what were the terms of such financial agreement? Did he have similar financial agreements with other family members that led them to make similar large payments to him? And did he know that the same day James Biden wrote him a check for $200,000, James Biden had just received a loan for the exact same amount from business dealings with a company that was in financial distress and failing? The House Oversight Committee will soon announce our next investigative actions and continue to follow the money. The bank records don't end here. There's more to come.
More to come, and we are waiting. And President Donald Trump, he took to social media on Saturday commenting on the smoking gun evidence that President Biden was directly involved in his family's business affairs. Simply posting, "Check, please," he wrote in the post, which featured a screen grab of Newsmax anchor Greg Kelly holding a facsimile of a personal check for $200,000 made out to Joseph R. Biden Jr. Now, shifting our focus to another curious transaction, President Joe Biden's 2017 purchase of a lavish beach house has caught the attention of Republican investigators. Records indicate no mortgage was taken out during the acquisition of this $2.75 million residence. This suggests a full cash payment, which coincides suspiciously close to a text from Hunter Biden to Chinese business associates. This particular message conveyed Hunter's anticipation of a call with his father and the closing of a deal worth a whopping $10 million annually. But what's this? Just as our muscles weaken with age, our republic's strength and integrity may be eroding with these shadowy dealings. Just like how the body loses muscle mass, our trust in political transparency seems to be diminishing. And that's why, like many who turn to innovative products, to address muscle loss, it's essential to seek clarity and truth in these troubling times. This particular muscle product, with its 4 science-backed ingredients, mirrors the 4 pillars of our republic: transparency, integrity, accountability, and justice. And for those interested, there's a special 41% offer for the rest of the month at gainwithgary.com. And now back to our investigation. Between 2015 and 2017, the Biden family allegedly received a sum of about $1.3 million from a Chinese company deal. This aligns uncomfortably close with Joe Biden's luxury beach house purchase timeline. Raising eyebrows further is the reported family income of $11 million in 2017. Though the Bidens claim the beach house funds stemmed from a book deal, the timing and surrounding circumstances remain suspect. Chairman Comer articulated these concerns succinctly, linking Joe Biden's beach house acquisition to the timeline of his family's dealings with a CCP-linked entity. The pressing question remains: is there more than meets the eye? America stands at a crossroads where the integrity of our leadership faces grave questions. The revelations laid bare within this investigation into President Joe Biden's financial transactions and his family dealings are more than troubling. They're a siren call for accountability. When a leader's actions blur the lines of ethics, casting shadows of doubt over their stewardship, it's not just an individual on trial. It's our entire system of governance. We as a nation cannot turn a blind eye or silently acknowledge the erosion of our values. This is a clarion call for immediate, decisive action. The evidence demands scrutiny, the situation, transparency, and the office of presidency, unimpeachable integrity. Our final thought is a resonant demand for justice. For the sake of our republic's future, for the trust of the governed, there must be a thorough investigation and, if warranted, a resolution to remove from office. The time for accountability is now. Tensions escalate as Blinken signals a potential Iran showdown. Angie, what can we expect from this unfolding situation?
Tensions are flaring with Iran as Secretary of State Antony Blinken drops a bombshell on Meet the Press. Forget tiptoeing around. He's outright said military escalation is likely. Why? Ongoing threats from Iranian proxies targeting our forces. That's why. Just this week, drones hit our base in Iraq and U.S. Navy carriers are heading to the region. We're talking about 2,000 personnel on a prepare-to-deploy order here. And to that, the USS Carney stopping missiles from Houthi territory in Yemen. With American lives lost and hostages taken in the Hamas-Israel conflict, the stakes are sky high. Iran's not just stirring the pot, they're readying for a full-blown showdown via proxies like Hezbollah. It's a stark reminder of the bravery of our armed forces and the unyielding American spirit. Stay alert, stay strong. Dive deeper, tap the link below. Gary breaks down the impact of Trump's powerful image targeting a New York City judge.
In an unfolding saga that's gripping the nation, former President Donald Trump finds himself at the epicenter of controversy and legal whirlwinds. But it's his latest response that's turning heads and setting social media ablaze. Imagine an image so powerful it speaks volumes without uttering a single word. What could Trump possibly disseminate amidst his legal battles that resonate with such profound impact? Stay tuned as we delve deep into the high-stakes confrontations, the legal chess being played in the public eye, and the personalities clashing in this unprecedented scenario. But it's not just about the battles in the courtroom. There's a bigger picture that many are missing, a revelation that will have you questioning the very core of these legal proceedings. Stick with us until the end for a final thought that promises to shift your perspective on what the events mean for the future of our republic. In a climate of heightened political tension, former President Donald Trump remains a figure impossible to ignore. Recently fined $5,000 for breaching a judicial gag order during his civil trial in New York, Trump's retaliation wasn't in words, but in the form of a stirring image, a courtroom sketch depicting himself seated next to none other than Jesus Christ. Shared on Instagram and his platform Truth Social, the picture speaks volumes in a moment when he's been legally compelled into silence. Now, this artistic counterpunch didn't emerge from nowhere. Trump originally shared the sketch on Truth Social earlier in October, crediting user Dom Lucier. The caption, "This is the most accurate court sketch of all time. Possibly, nobody could have made it this far alone." It's a sentiment resonating with many Americans who view the relentless legal pursuits against Trump as a man not just fighting a legal battle, but waging a war for the soul of this country. But what sparked this latest fine and subsequent pictorial response? It stemmed from a social media post by Trump labeling Judge Arthur Engoron's clerk Allison Greenfield as the girlfriend of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Though it vanished from Truth Social on Engoron's command, the post lingered on Trump's campaign website for 2 additional weeks. Engoron, highlighting the volatile political ambience, warned against incendiary untruths, leading to potential physical harm. He cautioned sternly that future violations could trigger stiffer penalties and even incarceration. Watch.
The former president was hit with a $5,000 fine and threatened with jail time today for violating a gag order in his New York fraud trial. The judge said a social media post attacking the judge's clerk remained visible on Trump's campaign website more than 2 weeks after he was ordered to take it down.
Despite this, Trump didn't retreat. Instead, he doubled down, sharing another Truth Social post labeling Engoron as a lunatic. The chess match continues, with each move more audacious than the last. Engoron presides over a contentious trial where New York State Attorney General Letitia James alleges Trump artificially inflated his assets' value. The gravity of these proceedings hasn't escaped Trump. Emerging from the lower Manhattan court, he unleashed a scathing critique, framing his legal entanglements as a ploy to derail any potential 2024 presidential campaign efforts. He blasted James for allegedly conspiring with the DOJ to sideline him politically, labeling the ordeal election interference. Watch.
Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, and it's worth $1.5 billion or thereabouts. But he said it was worth $18 billion. So they defrauded us because he called me a fraud. He called me a fraud, and he values Mar-a-Lago at $18 million. And you can't do that. It's worth probably 50 to 100 times more than that. And our corrupt attorney general, she's totally corrupt. She just wanted the publicity to run for governor, and then she failed running for governor. She had practically nothing in terms of vote. But she went after Trump because she was running for governor. That's the only reason. But she got the judge to value Mar-a-Lago for $18 million. When the smallest house in Palm Beach is probably worth $50 million. And this is the biggest, the best anywhere in the country. There's nothing like it. So they put it down at 18 million, and they said I overvalued it because we had it valued at a much lower number than it's worth. And by the way, my financial documents are valued much less than my actual value, which nobody even knows. But the financial documents that I gave to the bank are much less than my actual net worth. So therefore, I gave them to the bank. They can't be a fraud because I gave them lower numbers. I'm probably one of the only people ever to seek a loan. I didn't even need the loan because you see the kind of cash I have. I didn't even need loans. Maybe you don't do a deal or two. But I have a lot of cash, a lot of everything. You know, a lot of people are very surprised at how successful this is. You saw it today with the kind of cash I have and the kind of success we've had. But I'm a private company. I was never going to reveal this kind of stuff, but now it comes out. It comes out because a corrupt attorney general sued me for fraud. And then they found out they had no case. And they have no case. And today, if you read the New York Law Journal, they basically say they have no case against Trump. But I'm here, stuck here, and I can't campaign. I'd rather be right now in Iowa. I'd rather be in New Hampshire or South Carolina or Ohio or a lot of other places. But I'm stuck here because I have a corrupt attorney general that communicates with the DOJ in Washington to keep me nice and busy. Because I'm leading Biden in the polls by a lot.
Mr. Trump, why did you want
This is election interference. They made up a fake case. They're fraudulent people. And the judge already knows what he's going to do. He's a Democrat judge. In all fairness to him, he has no choice. He has no choice. He's run by the Democrats. I know this city better than anybody knows this city. There's nobody knows it like I do. He's a Democrat judge out of the clubhouses. He's controlled, and it's a shame. What's going on here is a shame. Our whole system is corrupt. This is corrupt. Atlanta is corrupt. And what's coming out of D.C. is corrupt. But this is a good one because this one is incorrupt.
Yet the courtroom isn't the only battlefield. Trump's son Eric entered the fray, posting a video of James vowing to target the Trump family. His caption denounced the situation as reminiscent of third world prosecutorial misconduct, undermining American faith in the legal framework. Watch.
Rise up and resist this man!
When he leaves office as a private citizen, he will no longer have presidential immunity.
Can we actually get him?
The New York Attorney General has joined the Manhattan District Attorney.
Days of this president are numbered.
Claims that you campaigned on a Get Trump agenda.
And we will rise up together and we will resist this president. Bring him down.
Stay tuned.
In the backdrop of these state-level skirmishes, a federal case looms large. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan initially placed a gag order on Trump in relation to his objections to the 2020 election results. However, in a dramatic turn, she paused her own mandate. This restriction, criticized by Trump's team as an abomination, curtailed his ability to publicly defend himself amidst the roaring campaign trial. And with the crisis erupting unpredictably on all fronts, be they natural, political, or economic, it underscores the need for preparedness. And that's why our sponsor, My Patriot Supply, is stepping up. They're offering an exceptional 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food kit. In times of uncertainty, having a backup is crucial. And this offer won't last forever. Protect your family and visit preparewithgary.com to claim your discount. Be prepared. It's never been more crucial. Now, this legal storm isn't merely about one man's trials. It's a reflection of a national climate fraught with partisan warfare, where judicial proceedings blur with political vendettas. Trump's graphic response, liking his strife to a spiritual journey, isn't just art. It's a statement. It's a declaration that though he may be cornered by legalities and gag orders, his resolve remains unshaken, his voice unquenchable. So what we're witnessing transcends the realm of routine legal proceedings. It's a bellwether for the state of our republic, a reflection of the political divides etching deeper into America's judiciary and democratic systems. When a former president equates his legal plight to a spiritual trial, It underscores the perceived assault on values many Americans hold dear. The actions of Attorney General Letitia James and Judge Engoron, whether just or skewed, resonate beyond the courtroom, echoing in the hearts of citizens who view this as another chapter in the ongoing battle for justice and truth. It's not solely about Donald Trump. It's about every American who entrusts their faith in a system that vows to uphold justice devoid of political vendettas. As these events continue to unfold, they remind us, vigilant we must remain, ensuring our republic's foundations aren't eroded by the very hands entrusted to protect them. Political circles are abuzz as Liz Cheney now hints a White House run. Angie, what is the scoop on this?
Cheney is hinting at a 2024 presidential bid, astonishingly right after a monumental defeat in her Wyoming reelection. Despite her dwindling popularity, she's setting her sights on the highest office. But here's the catch. Her relentless criticism of Trump doesn't make her a genuine contender. It makes her a darling of the Democrats, nothing else. With her father's network, she's mustered up some monetary momentum, but that's hardly a ticket to victory. She's barely a blip on the Republicans' radar, and Democrats, they won't likely back her. Her candidacy seems more like a ploy to vex Trump loyalists and, cynically, to hawk her new book. Considering the diverse anticipated candidates like RFK Jr. and Cornel West, Cheney's bid is a moonshot. In truth, she's not marching towards the Oval Office, she's veering towards political irrelevance. Dive deeper, tap the link below. That's all the news I have for you tonight. Now back to Gary with your comments from the comments section.
It's time for our favorite segment, the comment section, where your voice, the voice of the true American spirit, gets to be heard loud and clear. Today's comments are firing in from our recent video, Inside the Resignation, Shaking Biden's White House Core. So let's dive in. First up, we have JS, who laments, an even greater pity goes to those who stand without question and ready to re-elect Biden. I couldn't agree more. It's baffling, isn't it? The level of blind allegiance some folks have, marching behind a leader, ignoring the chaos unfurling right before their very eyes. It's not just a pity, it's a danger, a threat to the very fabric of an informed republic. Next, Bondage Be Bound, I believe that's what the name is, pulls no punches, stating it's time for the ballless military leaders to remove this inept security risk from him in hospice where he belongs. Biden is the worst case scenario. Harsh, sure, but think about it. Our national security is on the line every single day. We need a leader, not someone who seems perpetually lost in the fog of confusion. The highest office demands the highest faculties, and if those are in question, so should be the person sitting in that office. And here's QB 1491 with a fiery take. This was done on purpose. Undoubtedly, they knew better, but they didn't care to do better. Every Democrat that voted for this should be ashamed. Deliberate or not, negligence is palpable. When actions consistently lead to national detriment, you start to wonder if it's sheer incompetence or something more sinister. Either way, the voters who propelled this administration into power must do some serious soul-searching. Moving on to Fabian, who doesn't mince words. Our commander is a traitor. All his lieutenants are complicit in this treason. The power of the money. Well, it's a heavy accusation, but the sentiment underscores the feeling many Americans share. They feel betrayed by those sworn to protect their interests. When leadership seems more focused on personal agendas or is caving to monetary influences, it doesn't just erode trust, it tears at the very soul of our country. And lastly, we have Bill Stapleton, 1084, asking the multi-million-dollar question, who is really in charge? I've never seen a president make a statement, then the White House reversing what the president said. The president sets the tone, not some staffer in the White House. Exactly, Bill. Since when does the President of the United States play second fiddle to unnamed bureaucrats? It's like the ship has no captain and we're in stormy seas. The confusion, the backtracking, it's not just unbecoming, it is downright alarming. Now, to all who commented, thank you. Your engagement shows that the American spirit isn't just alive, it is kicking, it's screaming, and it's demanding better. It deserves better. Keep the comments coming and keep holding the powerful accountable and keep the conversation alive. Remember, this is your America and your voice matters. Until next time, stay free. And now, who are we looking at tonight? Welcome to our special segment, Looking at You. And tonight, folks, we're casting a spotlight on none other than Joe Biden. Now, while crises erupt across the globe with Americans in peril and hostile forces on the move, our president seems to have a different priority: vacationing. So let's set the scene. The sands of the Delaware beach, waves lapping peacefully at the shore, and there's Joe Biden strolling without a care, seemingly oblivious to the chaos unfurling under his watch. Hostage situations involving American citizens, embassies under threat. These are dire times demanding decisive leadership. But leadership seems to be on a break, perhaps getting a tan. It's a pattern with Biden, noticeable to anyone paying attention. A crisis at the border, escalating tensions in the Middle East, potential precursors to significant conflict, and where is the president? Taking a weekend off in Delaware yet again, refusing to answer questions from reporters. Watch. There he is. Old Joe just taking a stroll on the beach. Jill by his side. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, bombs are going off. People are dying. Oh, look at that. Oh, they're just sharing a little moment. Getting asked about hostages. He waves. Oh, look, there's a fish. Oh, there's the Secret Service hanging out. Wow. Completely oblivious. The border's a mess. The Middle East is a mess. Our economy's a mess. And Joe Biden taking a leisurely stroll with his wife. Right there. Peaceful. It's a stark contrast, ladies and gentlemen. Think back to the previous administration and say what you want about Trump, but the man was known for his work ethic. Reports consistently had him up early, working late, always in the thick of things. But Biden, his workdays reportedly wrap up early, and his penchant for leisure is becoming a hallmark of his presidency. But let's talk about the big picture, the one that impacts every single person in our republic. The President of the United States symbolizes the nation's resilience, its resolve, its relentless spirit. So what message does it send when he's off on the beach as turmoil rages? It's not just about optics, it's about the very fabric of presidential duty. And here's a nugget to chew on. Whispers are growing louder about who's actually orchestrating the Biden show. With Biden so often out of the loop, speculation is rife that Obama's hand is still in play. So why does this matter to the American people? Because leadership is not a part-time job, it's a full-time responsibility. The safety of our citizens, the stability of our republic, the strength of our position in the world stage, these aren't concerns you can put on pause for a seaside jaunt. It's more than a man. It's the office he holds and the duty he owes to every American citizen. A president's commitment must be unwavering, his focus unshakable. It's high time we see that level of dedication from Joe Biden. And that's looking at you for tonight. Keep asking tough questions, America. Stay strong and stay vigilant. And now it's time for my final thought. As we conclude tonight, it's crucial we recognize the gravity of what's unfolding before us. From California's monumental Second Amendment ruling to the strategic plays in the House, our rights and leadership are in the spotlight. And while political undercurrents might be shifting with figures like Dean Phillips and Liz Cheney making waves, it's the global stage that demands our urgent attention. In the Middle East, a powder keg of tensions threatens to explode, drawing in power players like the U.S. and China, challenging our resolve and strategic acumen. Closer to home, our southern border emerges not just as a humanitarian concern, but a potential flashpoint of national security demanding robust and uncompromising action. Furthermore, as our leaders grapple with fiscal decisions and foreign aid, we must be vigilant, ensuring our resources don't inadvertently fuel the fires in global terror. Integrity in governance isn't just idealistic rhetoric. It's a necessity underscored by revelations around the financial dealings of those in the highest echelons of power. As former President Trump symbolically aligns himself with a higher battle, we're reminded that these aren't just domestic or foreign issues. They are a test of our national character, our values. Resolve and unity as Americans has never been more critical. In these times, America, we must be informed, steadfast, and above all, united in the defense of our nation's principles. So, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our show tonight. Angie, tremendous work on those news briefs. Thank you. And to everyone who tuned in and contributed to the live chat, you're what makes this show pulse with life. And of course, this is the real Gary. This is not the AI Gary. Just want to make that very clear. But let's take a moment to talk about steering your own ship, especially in these turbulent times. Whether it's the unpredictability of global politics or the potential financial quagmires discussed tonight, it's natural to feel a bit lost at sea. And that's where our friends at Noble Gold Investments come in. Think of them as a seasoned captain you want beside you as you navigate through uncertain financial waters. So just listen to this. The team didn't just answer my questions. They guided me through the entire process. What I found was genuine advice, no hard sell. With Noble Gold's wisdom, the stormy prospect of securing my family's future suddenly became a calm journey. Don't let your ship be tossed around by financial uncertainty. Noble Gold will show you the ropes, even suggesting if gold and silver could be your safe harbors. And here is the treasure map. They're offering one of these absolutely beautiful 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful bullion coins only for qualified accounts. So see if you qualify by giving them a call at 877-646-5347. Why drift in doubt when you can set sail towards security? They're the folks with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and a chest full of 5-star reviews. Chart your course today by visiting nextnewsgold.com or just tap more below this video to anchor at their website. That's nextnewsgold.com. They are the only crew I trust on deck. And that's all from us at N3 Primetime. Engage with us on Twitter, dive into the comments below, and keep this community shipshape. You're not just passengers, you are the crew that keeps America sailing strong. If you liked the cut of our jib tonight, share the voyage with a friend. I'm Gary Franchi. Remember, I'm not here to enlist followers. I'm here to recruit skippers. Good night and smooth sailing.